Stress rarely arrives loudly. Most of the time, it enters quietly. It builds slowly in the background of ordinary days, in responsibilities, expectations, and the silent pressure to keep everything together. You wake up with things already on your mind, messages to answer, problems to solve, people depending on you, and somewhere inside all of that, you are trying to hold on to your faith. You pray. You remind yourself to trust God. You try to stay calm, but the tension in your body does not disappear. Your mind still keeps scanning, thinking, planning, preparing for what could go wrong. And eventually, a question appears in the back of your mind. If I truly trust God, why do I still feel so stressed? This question lives quietly inside many believers, not because they doubt God, but because they feel something they do not understand. They believe, and yet their body feels exhausted. They pray, and yet their thoughts keep racing. They read scripture, and yet their shoulders remain tense, and slowly a silent guilt begins to grow. Maybe I'm not trusting enough. Maybe my faith is weak. Maybe something is wrong with me. But what many people never realize is this: stress is not always a spiritual problem. Often, it is a human one. Your body was designed to respond to pressure. Your nervous system was created to protect you. When life becomes demanding, deadlines, responsibilities, emotional pressure, your brain shifts into alert mode. Your heart beats faster, your muscles tighten, your breathing becomes shallow, your mind becomes focused on survival. This is not a failure of faith. It is a natural biological response. The difficulty begins when that response never turns off. When the pressure stays for weeks or months or even years, your body remains in a constant state of readiness, always preparing, always scanning, always carrying something heavy. And the strange thing about stress is this: many people who carry the most stress are the ones who appear the strongest. They are the ones people depend on, the ones who help others, the ones who rarely complain. But strength can sometimes hide exhaustion, and faith can sometimes hide silent pressure. Because many believers were taught something important, but incomplete. They were taught to pray, they were taught to trust God, but they were rarely taught how the human mind handles stress. So when tension appears, they assume the problem is spiritual. But sometimes the problem is not that faith is missing. Sometimes the problem is that the body has been carrying too much for too long, and the soul simply needs space to breathe. One of the most confusing experiences for many believers is this: they trust God, and yet their mind still feels restless. They pray sincerely, but their body still carries tension. They read words of peace, but their thoughts continue moving at full speed. And eventually a quiet doubt appears. If I truly trust God, why do I still feel this way? But the relationship between faith and stress is often misunderstood, because faith was never designed to erase human biology. Your mind and body were created with systems that respond to pressure. When life becomes demanding, work, responsibilities, relationships, uncertainty, your brain activates a protective response. This response is not spiritual weakness, it is survival. Your nervous system begins preparing you to handle challenges. Your focus sharpens, your body becomes alert, your mind scans for possible problems. For short periods, this response is helpful. It helps you solve problems. It helps you stay attentive. It helps you react quickly when something requires action. But when pressure becomes constant, the system never truly turns off. And this is where stress becomes exhausting. Your mind begins operating as if something important is always about to happen, even during quiet moments, even during prayer, even during rest. And when that happens, many people assume they must simply try harder spiritually. They pray longer. They try to control their thoughts. They push themselves to feel calm. But something deeper is happening, because stress is not only about thoughts, it is also about the body. Your muscles remember pressure. Your breathing reflects tension. Your nervous system holds patterns that develop over time. And sometimes the body needs something that many believers were never taught: permission to slow down. In the Gospels, we see something interesting about the way Jesus lived. He moved with purpose, but he also stepped away. He walked into quiet places. He paused in moments of silence. He allowed space between the demands of people and the restoration of his soul. Yet many people today live the opposite way. Constant information, constant responsibility, constant mental movement, even moments meant for rest become filled with thinking, planning, worrying, analyzing. And when the mind never pauses, the nervous system never resets. Faith was never meant to function as pressure. It was meant to create space, space to trust, space to breathe, space to remember that not every outcome depends on your ability to control it. Because one of the deepest sources of stress is the belief that everything depends on you, your decisions, your planning, your effort, your ability to hold everything together. But faith gently introduces a different perspective. It reminds the mind that responsibility has limits, and that some burdens were never meant to be carried alone. Understanding this does not instantly remove stress, but it begins changing the way your mind holds it. Instead of fighting every feeling of pressure, you begin recognizing what your body and mind are experiencing. You begin seeing stress not as failure, but as information. A signal that something inside your life may need adjustment, more rest, more honesty, more boundaries, more trust. And once that awareness begins, something important becomes possible. Not the disappearance of stress, but the transformation of how you carry it. So what does it actually look like to live with faith in the middle of stress? For many people, faith has quietly become another responsibility, something they feel they must perform correctly. Pray enough, trust enough, believe strongly enough. And when peace doesn't immediately appear, they assume something must be wrong. But faith was never meant to function like a performance. It was meant to become a place of rest, not rest from life's responsibilities, but rest from the belief that everything depends entirely on you. Stress often grows strongest when the mind believes it must control every outcome, when every decision feels critical, when every situation feels like it must be managed perfectly. And that kind of pressure slowly tightens the mind, but faith gently loosens that grip, not by removing responsibility, but by reminding us that responsibility has limits. There is a moment in the teachings of Jesus that captures this beautifully. He invites those who feel overwhelmed with these words: "Come to me, all who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." Notice what he did not say. He did not say, "Come to me when you have solved everything." He did not say, "Come when your mind is calm." He simply said, "Come." Because rest is not something the mind achieves. It is something the soul receives. This is why many people experience their deepest moments of peace not when life becomes easy, but when they finally release the illusion of total control. They recognize that they can act with wisdom, they can care deeply, they can do their part, but They were never meant to carry every possible outcome. Faith creates a new posture for the mind. Instead of constantly holding everything tightly, it begins to open its hands. Instead of constantly scanning for danger, it begins to trust that not every future moment needs to be solved today. And slowly, the nervous system begins to respond to that shift. Breathing deepens, muscles soften, thoughts slow down, not instantly, but gradually, because peace rarely arrives through force. It grows through alignment between your mind, your body, and the quiet trust that God is present even in the middle of unfinished situations. So if you have been carrying stress for a long time, if your mind has been racing even while your faith remains sincere, it does not mean your faith is broken. It may simply mean that your life has been asking more of your nervous system than it was meant to carry alone. And the invitation of faith has never been to become stronger through pressure. The invitation has always been to become lighter through trust, to do what you can, to care about what matters, and then to remember that some things belong in hands greater than yours. If this reflection helped you see stress and faith in a new way, this space exists for conversations exactly like this. Quiet reflections, deeper understanding, and the kind of inner formation that slowly changes the way we live. You are not alone in what you carry, and sometimes the first step toward peace is realizing you were never meant to carry everything by yourself. If this reflection spoke to something inside you, remember this: you are not alone in what you carry. Many people walk through life quietly holding more than others can see. Pressure, responsibility, expectations. But faith was never meant to make life heavier. Faith was meant to remind you that you do not have to carry everything alone. So take a slow breath, allow your mind to rest for a moment, and remember that peace does not begin when life becomes perfect. Peace begins when the heart learns to trust. If this message helped you today, subscribe to this channel for more reflections on emotional clarity through faith. And if you feel comfortable, share in the comments what this season of your life has been teaching you. Sometimes the most powerful step toward healing is simply knowing you are not walking alone.